everyone, and welcome to my video. My name is Marnie, and on this channel I plan to be discussing all things yoga related, kind of just any topic that pops into my brain. I'll do some research and put out a video like this one. I am a certified yoga instructor. I love yoga. I'm very passionate about it. I have a very deep interest in all things relating to it. So I do plan to make some yoga practices and actual sequences for you guys to do at home, but I also want to alternate that with videos like this, where it's kind of just me speaking to you about yoga philosophy or any other topics within the practice. So with that being said, if you guys have any requests or anything as well, I would love to hear it. I would love to just further some interest and give you guys some knowledge on any topics that are interesting to you. But anyways, thank you for joining me today. This is my first video. This is a brand new channel, so any love on it is very much appreciated. But for today's video, I want to give a little disclaimer as well. I'm so sorry. All my notes are in this notebook, so I will be kind of reading off of it today, and it is an eyesore. I'm really sorry. It's a very loud, ugly notebook. As soon as I use all of this one up, I plan to get a little bit more of a easier on the eyes notebook. So anyways, in today's video, our main point of discussion is going to be a very brief, short and sweet origin story of yoga. This will basically be in timeline order of the very first ancient texts describing yoga and how they continue to adapt over the next few hundreds of years. It will begin way back in about 1700 BC and continue until around roughly 200 AD. So I guess that it's a very wide range of dates. It's a little bit more than a few hundred. So anyways, we're going way back. As you can see, yoga is very far from a new concept, even with its current present day adaptations like Pilates and HIIT style workouts, those types of things. No hate to those. I'm a big fan of those as well, but today we're going to be discussing the very ancient traditional yoga. As I said, this will be just skimming the surface of yoga's origins, but to start, we will be heading back to 1700 BC in India. Now, the earliest known references to yoga come from the ancient text of the Vedas. The Vedas have no single author, but rather collections of knowledge and stories passed down orally by rishis. Rishis were individuals who were believed to have spiritual insights and different divine knowledge. I kind of correlate it with a prophet. I know they're not the same, but just in terms of having that divine knowledge, that was easy for my brain to wrap around, I guess. But anyways, these texts of the Vedas have been translated from Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the classical language of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, a very ancient language from India. Yoga itself is actually a Sanskrit word. The meaning of that is union or to unite. Yoga poses and different terminologies still use Sanskrit, so it's very much still a big part of the practice today. Now, the Vedas are categorized into four main parts. The oldest book is called the Rig Veda, and this one consists of different hymns and mantras or chants that are believed to carry vibrational powers. And then in turn, these powers were used to elevate the consciousness, mainly during religious rituals to honor deities or convey blessings. The next book is the Yajurveda. This is the book that contains the actual step-by-step guide and practices the person or the priest actually doing these rituals would follow. The final book of the main three Vedas is the Samaveda, which sort of plays off of the first book, the Rig Veda. It contains hymns and chants derived from that book, but then it adds different melodies to form more of a song to use during the rituals. Now, the fourth Veda is sort of considered to be its own separate thing because of its content and purpose. It does, it encapsulate the concepts from the first three, but it was made much later, and it's a different approach to those first three. The fourth Veda is the Atharva Veda. I'm so sorry, my cats are running around, so if you hear any weird noises, I need to get a microphone, but bear with me for this first video, okay? I'm sorry if you hear the cats. Anyways, the Atharva Veda takes a more daily and personal approach on the former Vedas. It consists of incantations used for healing, protection, and prosperity, while diving a bit deeper into philosophical and medicinal rituals. These were then used for people to do themselves at home. It made it a lot more accessible for just an everyday person who maybe couldn't attend certain ceremonies or just, didn't want to go out and have a priest or someone else doing these rituals for them. This was something they could have at home, easily accessible for their own time and their own benefit. So that is a very brief summary of the Vedas. Now the Vedas, these are going to bring us to the Upanishads. Now these works are considered to be the concluding part of the Vedas and were written, these were orally passed down as well, but these were believed to actually be written down in 700 to 500 BC, so sometime around there. So these came a little bit after the Vedas, but still pretty far back. Like the Vedas, the Upanishads were not written by one, but were rather the immersion of the traditions, beliefs, and practices of sages or rishis of that time period, kind of adapting from the Vedas in their own, it's an adaptation. These texts offered a more philosophical and inward approach to the ideas and practices that were previously being done. The two oldest parts of the Upanishads began to really dive into the idea of cosmic and physical connections. Now I really start to get into this idea. It's basically saying that the idea of space and the universe is playing a very big role in our tangible lives, that it's all connected. It was believed that Brahman, oh my gosh, Rafe, hey, Rafe, no, Rafe, no. Oh my gosh, I should have put the cats in the bedroom or something, I'm so sorry. Anyways, it was believed that Brahman, which is the infinite universal spirit of our universe as a whole, is very closely intertwined with Atman, which is our own individual soul. So, kind of along the idea of karma, everything around us is connected in a much larger way, on a larger scale than we can grasp in our human minds. Anything we do can greatly affect the consequences we face. And it's basically saying that the magic in the universe is in us as well. We're all connected, or everything is connected on a much, much bigger scale. Rafe. Anyways, now continuing to follow on this path, next comes the Bhagavad Gita. This is actually derived from a much longer epic and is believed to have been written around 400 to 200 BC. So getting a little bit closer to our present day, relatively. The way this text is formatted is more of a story because it's derived from an epic, so it has actual characters. Their names are warrior Arjuna and deity Krishna. So basically, as the story goes along, Krishna guides Arjuna in concepts of duty and finding spiritual liberation. The story format made all of the ideas that had been originating in the Vedas and the Upanishads much easier to grasp for the typical person wanting to dive in and read further on their practices or just get into this idea, this religion in general. It was much easier for them to follow since it was basically like a story. The Bhagavad Gita is where we really start to see the ideas of yoga philosophy grow. There are three main paths of yoga that are discussed in the Bhagavad Gita, with a fourth coming into play a bit later on as well. But originally there was three main paths that were derived from this book. But the first three include Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga is the idea of selfless service. This is performing one's duties selflessly without attachment to the result of their actions. So in present day terms, it would be like getting flowers for your partner without expecting a gift in return, or holding the door open for someone without expecting them to get the next one. Basically, setting all of your expectations to zero while still doing the right thing yourself, going the extra mile and being a good person without expecting anything in return. So that's Karma Yoga. Jnana Yoga is using wisdom and knowledge to achieve self-realization. This is really taking the time to analyze and reflect on yourself and the world around you, and just kind of seeing how they are coexisting with each other. So it's really researching and furthering your knowledge of you and the universe through texts and actual information, that sort of thing. That's Jnana Yoga. Now, Bhakti Yoga, this one is, it's the most extreme approach of these three. So this is full devotion and love for your higher power. It's expressing sincere love, surrender, and service as a way to connect with Brahman, the divine spirit. This path also involves full detachment from worldly outcomes. So fully diving into your spiritual plane, not worrying about the world around you at all. And this is really, truly giving up every worldly thing, all of your possessions, every outcome that the world could provide. It's going all into your spiritual practice. That's Bhakti Yoga. Now, I mentioned that there's a fourth path, and this is Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga is pretty much using meditation to reach a similar goal as the other three paths. So meditation is Dhyana Yoga. So all of these paths, their outcome, their goal is to reach spiritual enlightenment. So these paths are a very big aspect of the Bhagavad Gita and really set the tone and practices for the yoga philosophy today. Now, continuing along that timeline, a bit further into the timeline comes the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I'm so sorry, I've heard his name a few different ways and I'm not completely sure how to say it, so I apologize. I'm trying my best. You get it. So, Patanjali was a sage in India at this time, and he is seen to be the father of yoga because his text is a very foundational work in yoga that outlines the path to enlightenment. Patanjali defined yoga as the stillness of fluctuations in the mind and constructed an 8-limbed system for individuals to use for obtaining physical, mental, and spiritual liberation. The 8-limbed path, you get it, the 8 limbs of these, how am I trying to say that? The 8 limbs of this path, or the 8 paths. Okay. The 8 limbs of this path consist of yama, which is moral discipline, niyama, positive observances, asana, physical posture, pranayama, breath control, pratyahara, withdrawal of senses, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, samadhi, enlightenment. So these were the 8 things an individual would follow and practice to reach that highest form of self. We're going to be going a bit further into these first two limbs because these actually act as the moral and ethical codes that serve as our guides on this spiritual journey to enlightenment. So first we will be discussing the yamas, which are the acts we should be refraining from doing and how we should be treating the world around us. So the main 5 yamas consist of ahimsa, which is nonviolence, siyata, which is truthfulness, astaya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, non-indulgence, and aparigraha, which is non-possessiveness. These are all fairly self-explanatory, but I did just want to mention that these codes should not just be followed when interacting with other humans. These are designed for the whole world around us. So ahimsa, nonviolence, goes toward all animal life as well as humans. When I was going through my yoga training, I did learn that traditionally many yogis are or were vegetarians because of this, treating all life forms equally. So that was a very common practice, was to not be eating meat. Not saying that everyone who practices yoga has to be doing that. I'm just telling you what I know and what I've learned. So anyways, back to the yamas. These are kind of the negatives, what we shouldn't be doing, which brings us to the niyamas, which are the positives, what we should be doing. The niyamas are how we relate to others and the tools we use to cultivate happiness and self-growth. These include shausha, purity and cleanliness, santosha, contentment, tapas, discipline, svadhyaya, self-study, ishvara pranidhana, surrender. So doing these acts are going to be what helps and pushes you forward on your path to enlightenment. These are what you should be practicing if that is your goal. So the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali really formatted our modern day practice of yoga by outlining the steps and principles needed to obtain this physical and spiritual enlightenment. So as you've probably noticed, I didn't really speak much on the actual poses and physical aspect of yoga, but rather the core ideas of where those later day practices originated. I think it's really important to just know where yoga came from. Of course, the physical aspects are a bit more well known and more practiced today, but I just wanted to spread some information on where the roots of yoga came from and why we use these practices today and how they can be used really as a mental and spiritual tool and not just for the physical benefits, which we'll get into that eventually too, I'm sure, because the physical aspects are a really great part of it, but it's really just tying in all of these concepts as a whole to better your whole being. The growths and adaptations of these ancient texts continue to provide knowledge and steps to obtain a healthy life physically, mentally, and spiritually. Again, this is just a very brief overview of the ancient concepts of yoga. I would be more than happy to dive into any of the people we discussed or any of the ideas I discussed in this video. I would definitely do more of a deep dive into it, but this is just to give you all a very basic knowledge of the roots and origins of yoga. Like I said before, if you guys do have any requests or any questions, anything you want to know more about yoga, definitely let me know, subscribe, come back. I am excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to grow this channel and just spread my knowledge and love for yoga. I do plan on my next video being an actual yoga practice for you guys, which I'm very, very excited about. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm sorry that I don't have a microphone, and I'm sorry my cats are running around and like the angle. This is gonna be a work in progress, okay? I'm just excited that you all are here. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for clicking on this video. Again, this is a brand new channel, so any love is very much appreciated. But yeah, I'll be back soon. Thank you. Bye.